You know the image. You've seen it 1,000 times in news reports, late-night comedy and action movies. It's the one of a young man, twisted by a violent ideology, who commits some horrific act, all for a supposedly singular carnal promise. 72 virgins waiting for him in the afterlife. This idea has become one of the most famous and most ridiculed things people think they know about Islam. It's a powerful story, one that paints a picture of a faith obsessed with sex and violence. But what if that picture is a complete distortion? What if I told you that the foundational text of Islam, the Quran, never once mentions 72 virgins? What if the story you've been sold is a grotesque caricature? A funhouse mirror version of the truth that helps both extremists looking for recruits and critics looking to condemn a whole religion? The real story of what Muslims believe about paradise, or Jannah asterisk, is something the media almost never touches. It's a concept that's far more profound, far more beautiful, and far more focused on peace than you can possibly imagine. Today, we're going to tear down the myth piece by piece, and then explore the serene, awe-inspiring vision of paradise that's actually described in the Quran. Forget the headlines. This is the story of what awaits the righteous, and it has almost nothing to do with the violent fantasies that dominate our screens. The media's manufactured paradise. To get to the truth, you first have to understand the lie. Where did this incredibly specific and sensational image of 72 virgins even come from? And why is it so stubbornly stuck in our minds? The answer is a messy mix of shoddy scholarship, media hype, and deliberate propaganda from two sides that, weirdly enough, benefit from each other. The story really took root in the Western imagination around the time of 9/11s. As the world tried to make sense of extremist groups, the media scrambled for simple answers. They needed a digestible motive for what seemed like incomprehensible violence. And the idea of a heavenly harem for martyrs? It was the perfect soundbite. It was exotic, shocking, and fit neatly into an old Orientalist box that sees the East as inherently sensual, irrational, and backwards. This stereotype of the radical Muslim, hell-bent on a holy war, became a stock character. News reports presented mistranslations of sacred texts as fact, feeding the fire. Commentators and talk show hosts used the 72 virgins line as a punchline, a shorthand to dismiss the messy realities of geopolitics and theology and just paint over a billion people with one brutish brushstroke. The message was clear. This is a religion that motivates its followers not with a call to be better, but with the promise of crude pleasure for being violent. This has had a devastating impact. It directly fuels Islamophobic ideas that cast Islam as uniquely obsessed with violence and sex. It also creates a deep sense of frustration for Muslims who see their faith, a source of peace and meaning for them, reduced to an offensive joke. Every time that trope gets repeated, it reinforces the idea of Muslims as the other, driven by bizarre beliefs that just don't fit with modern values. But here's the twisted irony. This same myth is a weapon used by extremist recruiters. For a vulnerable, alienated young person without a sense of purpose, the promise of power, glory, and an over-the-top reward in the afterlife can be a powerful drug. Extremist propaganda often exaggerates and sexualizes this idea, twisting ambiguous verses and weakly supported traditions into a concrete, enticing promise. They take the media's caricature and sell it back as authentic doctrine. So you end up with this toxic feedback loop. The media creates a sensational false image of Islamic paradise. Extremists grab that image and use it for their violent agenda. The media then reports on the extremists' propaganda as if it represents what all Muslims believe, cementing the stereotype even further. Both sides, the Islamophobe and the extremist, win from the lie, while the truth and the overwhelming majority of peaceful Muslims are caught in the middle. This isn't just some innocent mistake, it's a destructive lie. It flattens a diverse, sophisticated theology into a single ugly meme. It prevents real understanding and fuels the very clash of civilizations story that extremists on all sides want us to believe. To break the cycle, we have to go to the source. We have to ask, is this concept even real? Where did it come from? And what does the Quran actually say? Unraveling the myth. Let's be crystal clear. The phrase 72 virgins does not appear anywhere in the Quran, not once. In its more than 6,000 verses, the central holy book of Islam, which Muslims hold to be the direct word of God, simply does not make this promise. So where did it come from? The idea pops up in a few hadith collections of sayings and traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. It's vital to understand the difference here. For Muslims, the Quran is the primary untouchable scripture. The Hadith are secondary sources, compiled by scholars centuries after the Prophet's death. While they are a huge source of guidance, they exist on a scale of authenticity. Islamic scholars grade them from *sahih authentic to *da if weak, and even *maudu fabricated. The specific mention of 72 companions for a martyr comes from a handful of these hadith, and their authenticity is hotly debated among scholars. One of the most cited reports, for example, is classified by some as sound, but many other scholars see its chain of transmission as weak, making it a flimsy foundation for a major belief. To base your entire view of the Islamic afterlife on a disputed line from a secondary text, while ignoring hundreds of descriptions in the primary one, isn't just bad scholarship. It's a deliberate distortion. Even the language is up for debate. The Arabic word at the heart of this is hur. It's often translated as virgins with wide, lovely eyes. But many scholars, both classical and modern, point out this word is deeply ambiguous. Hur is a plural word that can be masculine or feminine. Some argue it simply means pure beings or pure companions, the focus being on their purity, not their gender or virginity. Renowned Quran translators like Abdullah Yusuf Ali and Muhammad Asad chose to render it as companions or spouses, a reward for all righteous people, men and women alike. This fits with a core Quranic promise. The rewards of the afterlife are for all believers. The Quran says over and over that anyone who does good, whether male or female, will enter paradise. The idea that the ultimate reward is a male-centric fantasy just ignores the text's explicit focus on spiritual equality. There's even a more radical linguistic theory from the scholar Christoph Luxemburg. He argues the Aramaic root of the word, a language that heavily influenced early Arabic, might not mean virgin at all, but white raisins. In this reading, the promise was for beautiful, crystal-clear white raisins, a huge luxury in ancient Arabia. While this is a fringe theory not accepted by most mainstream scholars, it shows just how much of the popular narrative is hanging by a single, highly contested translation of one ambiguous word, found not in the Quran, but in a disputed hadith. The point isn't to get lost in academic debates. It's to show that the 72 virgins story is built on the shakiest ground imaginable. It relies on a sensationalized and sexualized reading of a vague term from a debated secondary source, while completely ignoring what the Quran itself clearly and repeatedly describes. So let's turn to what those descriptions actually say. The reality, an environment of peace. When the Quran describes paradise, or Jannah, the first and most powerful image it gives us isn't of people, but of a place. The word Jannah itself literally means garden. This is the core metaphor, repeated constantly, and it's a metaphor of deep tranquility, beauty, and peace. Imagine the most perfect garden you can. The Quran talks about gardens underneath which rivers flow. This image is a constant refrain, a promise of life and serenity, and they aren't just rivers of water. The text describes rivers of pure water, of milk that never sours, of a special wine that brings delight without drunkenness, and of clarified honey. It's an allegory for total satisfaction, where every source of pleasure is purified of its worldly downsides. The environment itself is one of perfect comfort. It's a place with neither scorching sun nor freezing cold. There's no struggle, just perfect, gentle balance. People will recline on thrones, on lush green cushions and rich carpets, enjoying each other's company. The trees give deep shade, and their fruit hangs low, always easy to reach, with no effort or work needed to enjoy its bounty. The Quran mentions familiar fruits like dates, pomegranates, and grapes, but also promises so much more. It speaks of beautiful mansions, a great kingdom where every comfort is provided. The people there are dressed in fine green silk and brocade, with bracelets of gold and pearls. Everything that means beauty and comfort in this world is there, but in a perfected form. This isn't a wild party. It's a carefully crafted vision of ultimate peace and contentment. A garden is a place of life, growth, and quiet contemplation. It's the opposite of the desert, which represents hardship. The Quranic paradise is, first and foremost, a return to an ideal state of being where people are in perfect harmony with their surroundings. Every detail is meant to bring a sense of relief from the pains of life. The hard work of labor is gone. The anxiety of not having enough is gone, replaced by rivers that flow forever. The discomfort of extreme weather is gone. It's a place where every worldly good exists, but purified of all the harm and anxiety that comes with it. This overwhelming focus on a peaceful environment is a stark contrast to the violent, chaotic image the media pushes. The main promise isn't arousal, it's relief. It's a promise of deep, lasting peace. The reality, a state of being. As peaceful as the physical place of Jannah is, the Quran is clear that the real reward is a perfected state of being. It's an internal reality, an emotional and social life free from all the negativity that poisons our world. If the garden is the stage, the real prize is the purification of the heart. The most powerful promise of paradise is the total removal of negative emotions. The Quran says, "And we shall remove from their breasts any hatred or injury." Imagine a life where jealousy, resentment, and anger don't just get suppressed. They are completely gone from your nature. There's no gossip, no hurtful words. The text says, "They will not hear therein ill speech, but only the saying of peace, peace." The only way people interact is with absolute, untroubled peace. Fear and grief, two of the most painful human emotions, will be gone. The people in paradise are told they will have no fear, nor shall they grieve. This is a constant promise, emphasizing a state of complete emotional safety. All the anxieties that define our lives, fear of the future, grief over the past, are wiped away. There's no exhaustion, no weariness. It is a state of pure, unburdened contentment. This inner peace is matched by a perfect social life. Jannah is a place of joyful reunion. Believers will be joined by their righteous family members, parents, spouses, and children. It's a promise that the loving bonds from this life aren't broken by death, but are restored and made perfect in the next. They will be with friends, on couches facing one another, talking joyfully without any of the ego or competition that can spoil relationships on earth. And it's in this context of perfect companionship that we should understand the Hur-Alain. As we've discussed, the term is better understood as pure companions or purified spouses. For both men and women in paradise, companionship is perfected. Those who were married on earth are reunited with their spouses, who are also purified. Those who weren't are given pure companions. The focus is on purity and love, free from the selfishness or jealousy that can infect human relationships. It's about having a partner whose presence brings nothing but peace. This state of being is the real heart of the Quranic paradise. It's a complete vision of wellness. The body is at ease, the heart is at peace, and the soul is content with loved ones. This is a universe away from the crude bribe we see in the media. The ultimate reward in the Quran is not a physical thing to be used, but a spiritual and emotional state to be lived in forever. It's the fulfillment of our deepest longings for peace, for love, and for belonging. The ultimate reward, beyond imagination. For all its beautiful descriptions of gardens, rivers, and joyful company, the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad make one thing absolutely clear. All of these physical and emotional pleasures are nothing compared to the single greatest reward of paradise. They are just the backdrop for the true climax of a believer's journey. The greatest bliss isn't something you can touch or taste. It is the spiritual joy of being in God's presence. The Quran says, "But the greatest bliss is the good pleasure of Allah. That is the supreme felicity." The ultimate prize is to have earned God's contentment, to be welcomed by Him and to be near Him. A famous hadith says that after people enter paradise and are enjoying all its wonders, God will ask them if there's anything more they want. They will be stunned, asking what more there could possibly be. And at that moment, the veil will be lifted and they will be allowed to see God Himself. The hadith ends by saying that the people of paradise will have been given nothing more beloved to them than looking upon their Lord. This is the absolute peak of Islamic belief about the afterlife. It turns paradise from a place of simple reward into a place of ultimate spiritual fulfillment. The real joy isn't the garden, but the gardener. All the other blessings are just a reflection of God's generosity, but seeing God is a direct experience of His majesty. A saying of the Prophet describes paradise as holding what no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and what the human heart has never imagined. This points to a reality that is completely beyond our ability to understand. And this, right here, is the most profound failure of the media's narrative. By obsessing over a caricature of 72 virgins, they have missed the entire point. They have taken a spiritual tradition that climaxes in the divine presence, a concept of immense depth and beauty, and replaced it with a cheap, materialistic fantasy. They have traded a reward that is infinite and transcendent for one that is finite and crude. The real story of Muslim paradise isn't about sex. It's about seeing the face of God, an asterisk. That asterisk is the story the media will almost never tell you. So we're left with two totally different visions of paradise. On one side, there's the media's version, a violent, transactional, and hyper-masculine fantasy built on weak sources and bad translations, used to explain the actions of a hateful few. On the other side, there's the description inside the Quran itself, a vast, beautiful garden of unimaginable peace, a place where there's no fear, no grief, no hatred, and no work. It's a state of being where you're reunited with loved ones in perfect friendship, and where the ultimate joy isn't any material pleasure, but the profound, indescribable bliss of being in the presence of the Creator. The gap between these two visions isn't just a simple mistake. It's a tragedy. It fuels prejudice. It empowers extremists. And it buries a beautiful and profound spiritual teaching under a mountain of misinformation and ridicule. The point here wasn't just to debunk a myth, but to reclaim a narrative. The serene, spiritual, and peaceful vision of Jannah is the one that inspires over 1 billion Muslims to be patient, to be kind, and to do good in this life. It is a vision of hope, not of hate. If you found this helpful, please consider sharing it. In an age of so much misinformation, sharing credible source-based knowledge is one of the best things we can do to build understanding. What are your thoughts on this? What have you heard about paradise? And how does it stack up to what the Quran actually describes? Let's continue this important conversation in the comments below. Thank you for watching. And as the people of paradise say to one another, peace, peace.